In this video, I'm going to present about glaciated topography. Erosional work of glaciers. So there are two types of glaciologists with different views about glacial erosion. The first group of glaciologists are known as protectionists because they say the glacial ice is softer than the rocks, so thus it protects the underlying rocks and it can't erode the underlying rocks. That's what they say. The second group of glaciologists believe that the glacier is a potent agent of erosion and deposition, thus modify the landscapes. That's what they say. But whereas the pure ice is geomorphologically is an inactive substance, whereas when it is with the debris at the base, it makes an active agent of erosion. So the process of glaciarization means the coverage of an area with the moving glacial ice, whereas in the glaciation, the action of moving ice on the land actually takes place. It includes occupation of a land by ice masses, erosion and deposition. So the mechanisms of erosions are abrasion, plucking and polishing. Abrasion, in the process of abrasion, erosion with the help of erosional tools takes place, whereas in plucking, detachment of jointed rocks by moving glacial ice takes place. In polishing, when the ice has sand grains in it, so during the glacial movement which polishes the underlying rocks, so that's how the polishing process occurs. Erosional and residual landforms. So landforms formed by glacial erosions are U-shaped valleys, hanging valleys, cirques called Aretes, Horns, Tarn, Nunataks, Crag and Tail, Roches, mountonnes, glacial stairways, grooves and Fiords. U-shaped valleys, so we can see that it is in the U shape, but these valleys are formed in already pre-existing valleys are there. In this pre-existing valleys, the glacial action forms such kind of U-shaped valley. These are also called trough valley or glacial troughs. It has U-shaped steep-sided walls with concave slope and broad and flat valley floor. And the glaciers alone cannot dig out such deep, broad valleys. That's why I said that these are pre-existing valleys where the glaciers modify these valleys. Hanging valleys, the valleys of tributary glaciers which join the main glacial valleys of much greater depth are called hanging valleys. So this is the main valley, this is the other valley, this is the tributary valley, this is the main valley. Here during suppose the glaciers here melt and it forms it also makes a waterfall here to join the main glacial valley. So this is the hanging valley. After deglaciation, the meltwater of hanging valleys makes a waterfall while joining the main valleys. Cirques, these are armchair-shaped, horseshoe-shaped steep wall depression representing a glacial valley head. So these are the glacial valley head region. So this is in the armchair-shaped, and we can see that it has a steep slope in the sides. So it's a vertically steep sides it has, and it also has other names like Cori, Carbot, and head wall is almost vertical and steep. The floors of Cirques after deglaciation form lakes if water collects in it. So in this region after deglaciation, this glaciers melts and forms lakes also. Tarn. So this is a depression. So in this depression region, tarns are formed. These are rock basin is formed at the floor of the Cirque basin due to erosion consequent upon greater thickness of ice mass and its enormous pressure. So because of that ice pressure, here the depressions are formed. Here after deglaciation, this rock basin is filled up with water and this forms small glacial lake called Tarn. So called Aretes and Horns. So these landforms are developed in high mountain or plateau regions. So we can see this in the high mountainous region, these landforms are formed. So here this is the cold. Here on this side one glacier is there and this one glacier is there because of this headward erosion. This erosion here in this region, coal is formed because meeting at the arete will carve away a smooth gap. So this because of that headward erosion of glaciers, here coal is formed. And arete is a narrow ridge of rock with steep sides and that separates two valleys. So here we can see here is one valley is there and here one valley is there, here one. So these valleys are separated by a arete. So these are like a little ridge of rocks and that separates two valleys and formed by Cirque glacial recession. And horns are pointed peaks. So we can see these are pointed peaks that are bounded by glaciers on at least three sides. They have pyramidal shape and sharp edges. Nunatak. So we can see this is an isolated peak. These are higher peaks and mounds surrounded by ice. So all the regions it is surrounded by ice. called Nunataks. They look like scattered small islands amid extensive ice masses, also called as glacial island. Also, they decrease in size due to continued glacial lateral erosion. Because of the lateral erosion, the size of it decreases, and frost action also decreases. Crag and Tail. So these landforms, so this has a vertically eroded steep side. So this side is vertically eroded steep side, other side is it has a gentle slope. So this side is called upglacial side, the other side is down side, and this is called crag, this is called crag, this is called tail. And because the downside has a tail-like appearance, and the height also is low, and these landforms develop in granitic or old volcanic resistant rock regions. The side facing ice flow becomes steep due to erosion and called as crag. The other side is sheltered by glacial ice and becomes elongated with gentle slope and appears like tail. So this region is sheltered by ice, whereas here erosion takes place. Roches mountain is, so these are asymmetrical hills. So it's not a symmetrical hills, but it's a asymmetrical hills. This side is steep, this side is gentle slope, and advancing ice polishes the upgrades and gentle slope. So here the polishing takes place because in the gentle slope side, and the other side, this here the plucking takes place. Because of that, the rock joints are plucked out. Because of the plucking, this region has a steep slope. Glacial stairways. Next one is glacial stairways. These are also called giant stairways or cyclopean stairs. The length of each stairs vary from a few meters to kilometer. Each stair is separated by a vertical cliff. So these cliffs separate. So here we can see that these cliffs separate this, separate the stairs and formed by abrasion and plucking of steep falls. And sometimes depressions are formed and which becomes lakes, which also known as beaded lakes. Next one is fiords. These are glacial troughs have been occupied by sea. So this landform is formed in the coastal regions. Fiords are arms of the sea which have occupied U-shaped glaciated valleys, occurs at below sea level through abrasion and plucking. So it occurs in the below sea level. So here near the coastal region the depth will be very much, and towards the sea it will be less. Towards the sea it will be less. Here it will be more again. And towards the sea again the deep, again the depth also increases. So these are called fjords. Next one is transportation and deposition. So here glacial drifts. These are rock debris carried by glaciers, and sometimes it's also called as moraines. Glacial drift include till, ice contact, stratified drift, and outwash. Till has two types, one basal till and ablation till. Three types of glacial debris can be classified on the basis of location or englacial debris, so which are the debris within the ice itself, and supraglacial, so it is on the surface of the ice mass, and subglacial, which is at the bottom of the ice mass. So these are glacial debris. And depositional landforms, so formed due to setting down of glacial drifts, include moraines and drumlins. Moraines can be further classified into terminal moraines, lateral moraines, medial moraines, and ground moraines. Terminal moraines, so in this we can see that, so this is a glacial moraine. So at the edge of this moraine, terminal moraines are formed. So this is called terminal moraines. And here these are horseshoe shaped, having concave slopes facing glacial valleys. So lateral moraines, these are parallel ridges of till. So we can see in the lateral position, so in the sides it is formed. So parallel ridges of till on either side of the glacier, formed due to deposition of sediments along the margins of the glaciers when it contracts in size due to melting of ice. These are long, narrow, and steep-sided ridges parallel to the glacial valleys. So these are formed parallel to the glacial valleys. Whereas medial moraines, so we can see that here one glacier is there, it is joining in this region. Here this medial ridge is called medial moraines. So and it is formed, so these are sediments along the internal margins of two glaciers at their confluence, where it is joining at this region it is formed. They project above the surface of the glacial valleys. Ground moraines, these are formed due to glacial sediment deposition at the floor of glacial valley. These are glacial valleys, so at these floors, because of the sedimentation it occurs. And these are till covered areas with irregular topography and no ridges, and often forms gentle rolling hills or plains. Drumlins, so the swamps of rounded hummocks, so these are hummocks or mounds resulting from the deposition of glacial till are called drumlins. So here we can see the many drumlins are here because of the depositional process. They look like an inverted boat or spoon. These are elliptical, so it can be elliptical shape or ovoid in shape, but in blunt on the top up glacier and end with an elongate down glacier tail. And these occurs in cluster and regular pattern called cluster and regular pattern. These are also called basket of egg topography. And next one is Glaciofluvial deposits and landforms. Due to rise in temperature, glaciers melt and descends below snow line. This process is called ablation. Meltwater escapes through temporary small streams, and there are numerous streams here. Numerous streams forms. So through that streams, these meltwater escapes, and these streams carry sediments for longer distances and deposit them in various forms. Even ice is also carried along with the streams and forms many glaciofluvial landforms. Glaciofluvial landforms the glaciofluvial landforms include Cirques, which are long and narrow sinus ridges of sands and gravels situated in the middle of ground moraines. Suppose if it is a ground moraine, we can see here this is a ground moraine. In the middle of the ground moraine as sinus ridges, so it is not a straight one. So it is a curve. It is a sinus ridge which is formed, and that is called Cirques. Cames are small hills or irregular mounds of bedded sands and gravels deposited at the edge of retreating ice sheets. So these are hills like landforms, and these are irregular mounds, and these composition is mainly sands and gravels. Kettles, these are depressions in the outwash plains and formed due to melting of large ice mass. Types are cone kettles, delta kettles, terraces kettles, depending upon the shape and the location where it is formed, and depending upon that it has different names. Outwash, so these are meltwater descends through the terminal moraine and spread like sheet water which erodes moraines and deposits in front and forms plains called outwash plains. So the glacial fluvial landforms mainly occurs when the glaciers melt and when it flows. So it also carries along with that ice and debris. It also carries and forms different landforms like Cirques, cames, kettles, outwash plains. So these are the in glaciofluvial landforms. So here we can see that Cirques and moraines, drumlins, glaciofluvial landforms. So because the water is, so here it's flowing, the water is flowing like that. Because of that it creates many landforms depending upon the location where it is flowing. Thank you.